All right, man. Oh man, it's been a while. I know many of you thought we were done, off. Well, wrong. We are back for another open court discussion live in the Counselor's Corner. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me as my co host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis. Wolf is
Got
hungry.
my Ciroc point. I'm ready to roll.
It's been about 5 weeks. So tonight, September 8th at 9 p.m., we will be discussing the topic Money Matters, Family Doesn't, exposing financial parental abuse. Welcome to our special broadcast on a critical issue that affects countless individuals for parental financial abuse. Tonight, we will explore the complex dynamics of financial control, exploitation, and manipulation within families. Our goal is to shed light on this often overlooked problem, provide support for those affected, and spark a conversation about healing and empowerment. Let's begin this important conversation by looking at ways financial abuse occurs and why this abuse happens. Please like and share our video, and don't forget to share this with someone who may benefit from the conversation, who's willing to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. 970 subs, 30 away from 1K. We are making moves, but we need your movement as well. So here you have it. It's been a while. And the crazy thing is, between I started doing blog talk and podcasts and live streaming um, in 2014, in November 2014. So now it's approaching 11-year anniversary in November. This has been the longest time that I've been away from the air. Um, the longest time. It's been like 5 weeks. 5 weeks. And I know some of you are like, oh, I'm glad their asses is gone. Maybe they gave it up. Maybe they walked away. Wrong. Just had some cosmetic issues. You know, when you get older, things start getting frail and brittle, and you're being greedy. As my dentist said, you got to slow down. You got to take your time. You got to take your time and enjoy it. Well, I just happened. I don't know. Some people may sit know my story and say you should leave chicken alone. You was in a freaking hospital for getting a bone caught in your thing, and now this time I broke my crown uh, eating the chicken wing. You know, when you go back home, you like them fried crispy and hard, and it just didn't work out. It was bad. It was bad. So, and of course, the day it happened was the day that the day before I was supposed to return back to work with all the teachers, a week before the kids come. So now I'm walking around with a mask, and people looking, and they're like, "Lover, you sick?" Uh, and I never really took the mask off because I didn't want nobody to see I was freaking snagging too. And, people was just like, okay, I know he wore a mask before. Of course, COVID is still around. Again, we'll say that again. COVID is still around, and some people are actually catching it again now. But I had the mask on because, again, I just didn't like that look for me. And then, of course, I had it the following week. The kids came back, so I still had on the mask. So, of course, they're going to ask questions like, why you got on the mask? Why you got on the mask? But I worked through it. And, the valuable lesson is, as like my dentist said, sometimes you just got to slow down. Just got to slow down and take our time and um, enjoy whatever it is and stop rushing through everything. And I think that's kind of what it was, just being greedy. eh, and I paid for it. But needless to say, and I'm saying this right now. I think I'm done with buffalo wings. I think I'm going boneless now. I think I'm going boneless. And even like my dentist, he's like, "Well, you don't have to give up things." He said, "It's the things like the chewy candy bars and stuff, biting into stuff." It's like, but just you might have to eat it differently. You might have to break it into pieces. I'm like, man, I ain't trying to get my stuff pureed or whatever, but I think I'm just gonna go boneless and leave it at that because I don't want one of these mishaps. So that was uh, the major reason why it was out there because it took a while to even get into a dentist. It was all booked up. So I'm like, so I'm supposed to look like this? Really ain't nothing they could do about it at the time. And I'm like, man. But nevertheless, we back. I'm back. Still got some more, dental work to take care of, and that's vital. Whatever. I don't know how people can walk around. Some people comfortable walking around missing front tooth and all these side tooth and all that. I just can't do it. And they be up in people's faces like just talking and shit. I, I just can't do it. So it don't work for me. Whatever. I ain't saying I got the greatest grill, but what I do have, I like it to be presentable. And but that's one of the things that not so much could be connected with this topic, but kind of could be damaging for adults
Oh
if it
yeah.
wasn't taken care of when they were younger, and it could lead to shit, different ramifications financially too. Because if you're a younger person and you never got that type of work done, and then you get in your 20s and your teeth are jacked up and you're missing teeth and all that, you go on interviews. I don't care how what your resume looks like. When you leave that table, because I sat at the table, people going it's gonna be some people that judge and say things like, huh? He was knowledgeable, but his ass ain't had no teeth. So I don't want to look at that every day, every week for 40 hours. And you won't get the job. Seriously. No, and I'm saying it to be facetious, but that's for real because I've been on that side interviewing people. And if it's something you say, nah, they talk too much, or nah, I don't like the outfit they had on. Oh, that cologne or that perfume was too loud. These little things can stop you from getting the job. So just something to throw in. All right, that's enough of my situation. What's going on, Big Bad
Uh,
Wolf? I know you got some things to share.
it is kind of funny because I'm sitting here with three teeth that are broken beneath the gum line. So I'm gonna have to go in and have some major surgery and had them bad boys plucked. So as it stands, I'm one of those people that has the confidence to pull them off, only because they're hidden. You don't see them. So when I smile, you see the incisors, you see the bicuspids, but you don't see the molars and the premolars. So, and it's funny, as you get older, or I'll say this certainly about myself, as I get older, I am less likely inclined to enjoy being poked and pried. I don't like being sitting in the dentist chair, getting needles. Happened with the finger when I had to get stitches, and stitches are finally out. The healing is slow to come. I can't put the ring on the finger yet. So all you ladies who are wondering where the ring at, that's why I'm not wearing it. But and it's funny, man. I remember the day it happened, and I'm sitting on the ground looking at my hand, and it's split wide open. I'm talking like a boxer's eye and a mat's, man. As a ref gonna call it, and I'm sitting there, and I can't get up. I can't get up because I can't put any pressure on the hand. I can't do anything with it. There's two people I remember. They're walking up to me. They said, "You all right?" I'm okay. So the one guy is trying to pull me up, and at that particular point in time, I actually lost some weight too. I'll get into that in a moment. He's trying to pull me up. Now this guy, to his credit, and I thank him and the other lady who assisted, he's probably 140 pounds. There's no way in the world that he had the strength to pull 300 something pounds sitting there up. So I said, I'll tell you what, you just anchor yourself and I'll use your body weight and leverage and I'll pull myself up. So I said, you ready? He's like, holy shit. I was like, that's why you got to anchor yourself. So I get up and I start trying to walk to the hospital. Lady gave me some tissue so I could try and staunch the bleeding. So I'm walking to the hospital. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. At this rate, it's going to take me half an hour to walk to the hospital. And I'm only like a half a mile away, literally. So what does my dumb ass do? I get back on the bike and ride to the hospital.
Wow.
One hand, ride to the hospital. I'm like, yeah, this 5 minute ride is gonna be a lot better than half an hour walk. So when they got there, they X-rays, make sure there was no ligament damage or anything, tendon damage, and stitched me up. So I mean, I try to avoid stuff as I get older. That stuff is like what did Chris Rock's character in New Jack City just say? It's just be calling me. I can't avoid it. So I'm trying my best to avoid getting poked in pride. But man, the older you get, man, and then there's all these recommended things that they do. Your colonoscopies, EKGs, and all this other stuff. I'm like, man, this later for this nonsense, man. Let me just age. Let me just age. But on the good foot, man, I'm down to 276. I just hopped on the scale tonight. For those of you who are keeping track, that's down from 325. So I got about 70 more pounds to go. The end of October is the date that I'm shooting for. So it's within range. It's going to require me to keep on my diet as such. My blood pressure is stabilizing, even though it's still high on the systolic rate. The systolic rate is down. So I got to keep within my diet. So that means no more pizza and wings after the broadcast. I gotta stay away from the Doritos at the sip and dip, man. So it's tough, people. It's tough getting older, but it's enjoyable, man. Especially, if you have kids, you got family, and you have an active life, man. It's cool. It's cool, but you got to do the stuff that you hate to do to get where you want to be. So that's the message from there, man. I'm sure Dave will tell you the same thing. It sucks, but it has its own reward because generally speaking, the older you get, the less responsibilities you should have. If you got children, they're what we're going to talk about tonight. They're kind of out of the house in college. You kind of like a satellite now. You just, hey, waiting for the good news. I got A's this. I made the dean's list. I'm going to graduate cum laude. I'm going to graduate summa cum laude. I don't have too much debt. I got this scholarship. Things like that. So getting old had its own reward, but you got to get there. It's tough, but you got to get
Yeah. And yeah, back to it. So of course, we started off the school year. We're in week 3. So I can't say last year was the first year we opened up at a new school. It's been much calmer this year. Things are settling in. You know, but the honeymoon stage is starting to end. The drama is starting to pick up. You know, and that comes with the territory with kids. So, like I keep saying, it's like getting up for training camp. You go through the process, and now we're here and starting week 3 of school. And hey, I'm just you know, just taking it one day at a time. Just trying to get through, but at the same time, got other goals in mind that I want to do that will free up some time and um, give me more freedom and be able to be more of a shot caller, to do my thing. And I think that's the most important thing for me at this point, whatever, to not be regimented with the same schedule, the same time off. Shit, I want to free. I want to shout out to Darren Bubby Burberry. I want to be free spirited. Now I'm ready to be free spirited. And do what I need to do and just live. Because I think at this stage, that's what you would want to do when you're in your mid 50s, whatever. Just live. Do what you got to do. Go where you want to go. See what you got to see, and just live life. So it's important to put that plan in action next. But I'm always enjoy the kids. I'm gonna always enjoy the kids. They always gonna be they're hilarious, and that's what keep you young. Got to keep you young. You gotta, and it's crazy how they dictate things, whatever, too. Because if you ain't on point, kids will call you out. If you want the honesty and with people with no filters, kids gonna tell you the truth. And adults, a lot of y'all, a lot of us, especially the females, lie to each other about how you look, what's going on, and all of that. Guys, we probably just don't say much. We ain't just gonna say, "Hey, man, brother, you looking good." And if you don't think so, you just ain't gonna say nothing. Women, they just say it to be saying. It. Kids gonna be honest with you. They gonna tell you. They gonna tell you because that part of their brains ain't even working. Their filters and stuff, so they just go say whatever they want. Uh, so saying all that to be saying they're gonna make you. You're gonna have to be young, especially when you work in education, because if they smell you getting weak and vulnerable, they'll take advantage of it. But to get to tonight's subject, and many people probably like, yeah, we know emotional abuse, physical abuse. But what are y'all talking about? Financial, parental abuse. Well, what is that about? Like I said in my promo, there's several indicators on why, what it is, and how some parents use it. And let me just start off with one, and then we'll just go from there. And that's how we'll, tailspin the show. Withholding or controlling finances. Parents might control their child's finances, making it difficult for them to make independent decisions. You have some parents that do that. They control every aspect, uh, whether whether a kid has works a job, maybe they got some little side hustle. I ain't talking about anything with the streets. They just because now these with the way things is, people got side hustles and they can be creative and they can make their own money, whether it's selling stuff on the internet or just the possibilities is endless. And some kids bring in, I could say a couple of years ago, I had a student who had his own like this thing set up on the internet that he was selling some of his old like sneakers and stuff. And he said he was doing well. But then I think he ended up stopping and I'm like, yo, why stop? And I don't know if it had something to do with his mother said she wanted him to focus or getting ready to go to high school because he was doing this at middle school. But you could have some parents that could control that and dictate everything as far as that. Now, I'm not saying that parents shouldn't monitor it and all that, but at a certain point, you want to teach the kid independence so that they can kind of be free. They can learn, and especially if you're a kid and you feel like you got just due and you're earning money and you're using your craft or doing whatever you want. You want to have some autonomy to have some say with your money. And again, there's some parents that withhold that and they control it. It kind of it sets the kids up for failure or a lot of resentment. Anything you want to add to that, big bad wolf?
Yeah, we've talked about this topic before, just not in this particular manner. And a lot of people, they if you come from a family that doesn't have financial problems, then this probably has never ever crossed your radar. It's understandable. Your family doesn't struggle with money. But there's a lot of impoverished parents out there who either rely on some type of public assistance or government assistance who has a child that is You know, let me use the term, they're resourceful. So they use TikTok, they use YouTube, they have a platform that generates them a little bit of money. Or they're studious enough to go out and get a job working 15, 20 hours a week, as much as working papers will allow them in a particular state. And they bring home a couple $100 a week. Well, that's not a lot of money to an adult per se, but for that kid, that's financial freedom. But what happens when you have a parent who's struggling, maybe two children, barely making ends meet, and they tell this kid, "Hey, you got to start paying your own way." You know, I'm not the only one here who needs to be supporting this household. So you got to start paying. You got to start paying your portion of the rent. You got to start paying your portion of the bills. So that $200 they bring home, they'll say, "Hey, look, every time you get paid, I get paid. You got to give me $50. You got to give me $75 for being a kid, for work." And it's these type of parents, as we'll get into later, who will ultimately prevent their children from getting onto greener pastures because they don't want to lose that revenue source. And as crazy as it sounds, as unhinged as it sounds, these kind of parents exist. We don't hear about them. Why? Simple. Who advocates for somebody that's 17, 18, 19, 20? Nobody. Who do they turn to because they're being abused financially? Nobody. Why? Because the system's not set up for that. The system ain't set up for them to say, look, who can I turn to? It's not the police, because it's not a crime. It's not a crime for a parent to ask a child for some money. It's not a crime for a parent to quote unquote have that child pay some of the bills for living. It's immoral? Absolutely. But last I looked, nobody's been arrested for immorality. Unless you do something publicly, urinate or expose yourself, you might run into some criminal issues there. But other than that, nobody advocates for this group of people. And the gender doesn't matter. Matter of fact, if you're female, you might have it even worse, because your mother's going to say, hey, look, one, you might be in a situation. Why? Simple. Well, she failed to teach you what her grandmother didn't teach her. So she didn't teach her about not having kids early in life, going out and getting an education, even though we know there's some banter in the manosphere about educated women and how it delays family production and things of that nature. That's not what we're talking about. We're just simply saying putting yourself in a position to be financially viable as an adult. That's what we all want. That's what makes the world go round. Adults who are financially capable of living, cohabitating, and eventually producing kids who are healthy, who want to produce more kids who are healthy. And next thing you know, you got communities, thriving cities, and people want to be around. But when you got parents who are financial predators, it disrupts that ecosystem, and it makes moving to the next aspect of young adulthood difficult, because between the ages of, you're already dealing with puberty. And let's just say you're not one of the more popular people, whether you're male or female, and you're trying to transition into place so you can find your own way in life. And you got a parent that's standing in the way. There's no more ultimate David and Goliath than a parent versus a child, especially a parent that's domineering and financially dominating or abusive. So I'll end that right there.
And I think that's the critical piece when you have parents like that, because the kids feel like they can't grow. And some parents, it's about power, because they know, really, where could a like we always say, where could an 18-year-old really go? And when you say, and I think we need to start a new little saying, whatever, when instead of saying, I'm grown, you grown at 18. No, you fucking, you're not. You're not. You're grown enough to hopefully get out of high school. But being grown is,
Yeah.
being independent, being able to live on your own, being able to support yourself. And so for people who still have that way of thinking that, oh, you're 18 now, don't get me wrong, if you're 18, you need to be doing something, especially after you graduated from um, high school. Uh, you just can't be sitting around playing video games, not working, eating up everything, and laying around, staying up all night, um, you know, coming in all types of hours. Oh, you have to be doing something constructive, working, going to school, taking a trade, doing something. But that doesn't mean that that person is able to make it on their own without assistance. But see, it takes a parent who kind of got their own money. They can do what they need to do. Of course, if a child is in your household, it's okay to get something from them, just to teach them something. Okay, give me $100 toward this, uh, and you might have an idea what they make, but you're really not making them give up like it's a three-way split or a two-way split, and knowing your money is bigger than theirs, so it's never going to be equal. They're going to end up with little to nothing, and you still survive, and then you're also a benefit because you're still getting half of what they make. That's not how you want to do it. You want to give them an opportunity. Hey, they're going to make some money. They're probably going to lose some money. They're probably going to fuck up some money, or whatever the case is. But there's lessons to be told behind that. Hey, as adults, we stay fucking up money, no matter how old we get. But you want to teach them and put them in a position to feel like, dang, I earned this. Okay, I want a pair of sneakers. I want to get this game. I want to be able to do this. Give them that opportunity instead of having your hand out. Some people, some kids, as soon as they get paid. Now, granted, a lot of stuff is direct deposit or whatever, but I can even think back in the day, sometimes when people probably used to cash a check, they had to hand it right over to their parents and they would divvy it out. Who wants to work? Who wants to work, earn money, and have to hand it over right away without being able to do something that they want to do? So that's when you get a lot of exploitation, whatever, using child's income or access for personal gain. You gain, you coming up, you using it to get your nails done, your hair done, your eyelashes, your eyebrows, whatever else. Your hair on your knees. I don't know. They got so much shit that they do it now. That you don't even know. Who wants to live to like, damn, I'm really sponsoring them, and some parents exploit kids for that. Unfortunately, they use it for their own personal needs. And when you get into the talk about child support, and people will say, well, child support isn't just all for the kids. I think I think that shit irritates me because when primarily women, when y'all say, well, they gotta eat, they gotta do this, they gotta have somewhere to live. Shit, you without the kids, you was gonna have to pay that amount of money. So don't take what the dad gives to the kid. Now, granted, something's gonna go towards something, but a kid should be able to get something out of that money. Something. Something. I don't care if it's an outfit. Shit. Back in the days, if it was now everything is virtual and all that stuff. But if it's a freaking video game, something, I think that's exploitation, whatever. When you take that and use it for personal gain and try to make that as an excuse and think a kid try to make the father pay half as if the kid need to pay half of the rent or the mortgage, and it's the father's responsibility. When you was gonna have to live, you was gonna have to pay that shit anyway. But that's always an ongoing topic. I'll digress.
It's true though, man. And as much as it seems like we're going to be picking on single mothers, we're not. It just so happens that when you look at primary residence or control of a child and the things that the child accumulates, it happens to be a mother. So anybody that thinks we're picking on single mothers, just open your eyes to the reality of the situation. Because when that, and this is how I came about this particular topic. I saw a clip on a friend's YouTube, I'm sorry, Facebook page, where the mother would not help her son with the financial information he needed for the FAFSA. Now, for anyone that's not familiar with the FAFSA, FAFSA is a financial statement that a student fills out so they can get financial aid. The mother would not give him any financial details about the home. That's abuse. No matter how you look at it, no matter how you write it down, how you look at it, how you want to discuss it, that's abuse. Because that child's not going to be able to go to school. That child's not going to be able to get any financial assistance other than maybe take out student loans. And every student that I know that I've ever went to school with, or I know that's going to school, they're trying to avoid having to take out student loans. What's been the big topic of, of contention the last 4+ years going back to Biden administration? Student loan debt forgiveness. And that's why it's such a big thing. Because if you look at the number of students who take out loans and the amount, you're talking some serious money. And when these kids get out of school after a 4-year run, maybe 5, depending on how their educational attainment flushes out, it's a lot of money. And then you're looking at the interest on that. That's why Gen Z is having such a difficult time with trying to get their foot into adulthood. Rents are skyrocketing. I know just starting a job around here that I started, and I'm looking at rents and I'm just thinking, whoa, they want more for rents. Okay, rent that I am paying for a mortgage, almost twice as much for an apartment with one, maybe 2 bedrooms. Okay, just so you guys can get a grasp in terms of numbers. My mortgage payment is about $500 a month for a home that's a fair size home. And when I say fair size home, I mean a fair size home. I could put 2 more people in this house without a problem, and each one have their own bedroom. They're looking at $8,000 almost for something like that for a one apartment, 2 bedroom home. Not nearly, and I'm not blowing, I'm not tooting my horn, but not nearly as nice as something like this. Even though I need to put some work into it, it is insane. So these are the type of kids or young adults, if you will, who are subject to being abused financially. They want to get out, they want to earn, they want to see what it's like to be in that age category among their cohorts, going to school, bettering themselves, potentially getting a degree. Even David said, going to get a trade. And to be honest, a lot of kids will come out better by getting a trade. But even some trades require some type of payment, to be taught. Even if you do apprentice, whether you do HVAC, welding, electrical. Let's say you go to be a nurse, you get a 2-year degree, you go to be a CNA, and then you move up to uh, an LNA, or I'm sorry, uh,
LPN.
yeah, LPN, or you go to be a surgical nurse. Any of those things, they all still require some form of education. Some you might have to pay some you may not have to pay a whole lot. But if you have a parent standing in the way and they're saying, no, you can't leave, you're too lucrative to my living. You put a child in a position that they can't win. And like I said, they have no one to turn to. You, it's what do? They sit there and take it.
Yeah. And I think the only thing it does is build up resentment
Mhm.
with the child, and they'll hold on to that. I mean, especially as a parent, when you start aging and you're getting older, and you'll ask in Grace's Manor or some nursing home, and your children in the same city, and no one comes to see you, and it's holiday season, and other residents are getting visitors and taking their mother or dad out for a pass for the day, and you're just sitting there. Maybe something you did as a parent that a kid will say, I ain't, I ain't fucking with them like that. I don't fuck with them like that.
Yeah.
Now I can make my own decisions, and I'm not dealing with them like that, because I always say it. No, nobody wants to probably hear the other side of it. Um, I think we mentioned this the other couple episodes ago. But sometimes when parents pass and stuff like that, some kids they're relieved.
Hmm.
They're relieved. Like, thank God they like that. It was torture. It was hell. And so not everyone is happy, because of course a child didn't ask to be here. Uh, but I guess if they're there as a parent, you're supposed to try to make their life the best life best as you can with the resources that you have. Uh, but in this case, financial neglect just another component of it, because we already know the physical abuse, the emotional abuse, then finance. Because some kids will say, you know what, I'll just go to work. I'll keep busy so I don't have to be there. And I can make my own money because I'm going to get out of there. But knowing that they hit a roadblock, and you like, oh, you've been working a lot. How much was your pay? How much you get paid?
Yep.
Well, I made $400 this week. Well, I'm gonna need 300 of that. Huh? That's demoralizing to anybody.
Yep.
uh, and you think about it as an adult when you work and all that stuff, and then somebody, they withdrawing and you getting stuff garnished or something out your paycheck, whatever. Some people go postal over stuff like that. That's real. It's real talk. So imagine a kid who don't have all their brains not developed in their decision making. They pissed. They cussing you out. You every sorry ass motherfucker in the world. Once they get in their room or whatever. Uh, so you gotta try to balance it out and try to, you know, make sure they're able to do what they gotta do, and at the same time, let them have the ability to save money and feel good. Because if you teach a kid that and they start seeing it, their eyes light up. Hey, saved up. I saved up 6,000. Yeah, you kept putting money in. This is where you at right now. You off to a good start.
Yep.
Shit, you got more money in your savings than I do, but that's okay. But that's okay. Yeah, they feel accomplished, and they feel like, okay, I got an understanding of this. That I don't go blow all my money and I put something away, and then you know they feel that they have power. But remember what I said on one of the first things. well, I didn't get into that point, but one of the things, the reason why people financially abuse because they want power and influence. But you got to, the object of the parents is to empower a kid. So that's important. So another thing, ways of doing is overspending on themselves. We kind of touched on that, I mentioned it before. I can think about that, like I said, in child support or a kid that's earning. And like the big bad wolf said, that some of these kids can make money on social media now that they got money generated. Girls, little girls, they not do hair, they do nails, they make money. We talked about this months ago. Don't sleep on that OnlyFans with these little girls. These girls, they making money. When they asking you for all this camera and this footage and all that stuff, whatever, they got a plan. Somebody schooled them and told them, oh, they making good money. And like I said, their room boarded up that you can't get in, and they got this whole studio up in there, uh, and they making money just on the principles of some freaks that's gonna pay them or whatever. You may not even know that, like, damn, they making bank. They making bank, and it may be going straight to their account. And again, so you don't want that to happen. But see, and that's why, like, as far as the young boys aspect, that if they turn to the streets and say, well, you know what? One of my old buddies said they start slinging this, start doing that. And now I got my own money. It's coming cash or whatever. She or he ain't got to know about it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna keep doing this so I can buy my sneakers. I can buy this. Then when I get older and when I get my license, I'm gonna get me a car. I don't need to ask them for shit. And the tables turn. See, because in a way, you kind of led them to that. You led
Yeah.
them to that lifestyle because you tried to control everything, and they wanted to. They wanted to. When we talk about empowerment, that instead of you empowerment, you kind of enslaved them. That they said, you know what, I'm not doing it that way. My homeboy, my big bro over here told me, shit, this is how you do it. And they go a different route. All this shit is connected. I keep telling y'all all this stuff is connected. Y'all don't want to listen.
It's I mean, I look at my life, and I hell, for those of you who know, and for those of you who don't, I'm gonna give you a little synopsis. I was born poor. I was born fork to mouth poor. Sometimes you didn't know where your next meal was gonna come from, and you were always grateful for the meals you got. And I spent time in foster care, and I did a whole lot of bottle collecting, which I still do now. Matter of fact, I got a bunch to take back tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna make it, but I'm never too proud to pick up a bottle of can. I'm never too proud to recycle some scrap aluminum because I take that money and I give it to a soul or organization that's looking to fundraise. I'm always looking to do that. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things I look for when I go to a fundraiser, especially in the state of New York, is if they're selling soda, water. What do they do with the empties? And if you're throwing the empties away in the trash, you know what you're telling me indirectly? You don't need any money because that's money you're throwing away. I tell the kids it's as simple as this. What's 20 times 5? They say 100. I said, if you get 20 of those, you get $1. You keep doing that, you keep stacking dollars. In about 6 or 7 years, you have about $1,000. Really? It's like David said in the example earlier. Really? Really? But they don't teach these kids. Some parents don't want their kids to be financially free. Why? Because that no longer means they'll need the parent. And what does a parent do that's never done anything, that's never amounted to anything other than have kids? Their kids are all literally all they have. It is all they know. So once those kids leave, they're sitting around an empty house or an empty apartment, nothing to do, nobody to talk to, and no life to live because they spent the last 15, 16 years raising a child. They're too old to quote unquote go back to school. They don't want to go back to school because they feel out of place. Now you were here with people your child's age that you can't relate to. What do you sit down and talk to them about? They talking about TikTok. You talking about grown people issues. How you gonna make your next mortgage payment? How you gonna, excuse me, make your next rent payment? You're out of place. You're out of step. Your fashion's dated. Everything that you know is dated. I mean, think about it. It's bad enough. It's like this. Imagine doing a Rip Van Winkle. You wake up as a 30-year-old, as a 50-year-old, going to your 10th year high school reunion, and everybody wearing something different. You still stepping out with something you wore close to the prom or class day. People look at you like, oh, you gotta update your fashion. you can't wear that nowadays. You know, man. We gotta get you a fashion consultant, man. Something wrong with your look. The women ain't gonna go for that drip. Is that what they call it? The women ain't gonna go for that drip, man. You gotta change up, man. It's dated. So I mean, it's tough, for people trying to fit in, trying to find their own footing as an adult when you spent your prime adult years, especially it's different if you're married because you got somebody else there who you share commonality with. So you okay in that regard, or even if you've been in a long-term relationship with the mother and or father of your child, you got somebody there. So you can go off and do things together. You can go take a trip. You can go to a lounge, sit back and have a cigar or a glass of wine, and you have your cocktail, and y'all sit there and y'all listen to some jazz. You can do that kind of stuff when you're in a committed relationship with somebody who's your age. But imagine being a 35-year-old to a young 40-year-old woman, and you step out, you go to a nightclub because if you don't go to a nightclub or you left the online date and your profile is not up to snuff, and if you ain't catching them off the looks aspect, your fashion sense is gonna drive them away. They gonna be like, no, not with you. No can do. You might be a sundown to a sun up female, but in public, nah. Gotta treat you like a pariah. Can't be nowhere near you. People gonna think I'm crazy. You messing around with her? Yeah, man. She got a good. No, she can't trust to it. Why do you think I'm always a proponent? I'm going out to buy women something that I like to see them in. People talking about it and knocking.
Wardrobe check time.
Yes, sir. People knock it, but I tell you, you ain't got to worry about nobody talking about your partner over here. If you got them lacing something that you like, because that's all you need. You don't need them in something that everybody likes. You didn't bring them there for everybody. You brought them there for you. They're there for you. But if you're jacked up, like Jay-Z is here, it says, like Jay-Z said in the song, if your money knocked up, marked up, fucked up in the game money, you can't do nothing. So if you're one of these cats who got 3 or 4 kids, you out here trying to get it off the muscle off the street, you ain't got nothing concrete put up, you ain't set up shop nowhere, you ain't really tried to stack no paper legally, by the time you hit 45, 50, you can turn around and look and say, damn, I got nothing but my kids. Yeah, your kids are successful. No small part due to what you did or didn't do for them, mainly because the mother was out here bumping and grinding, trying to get it everywhere she can, trying to stop the kids from having to do what she's done. And here you are, you still begging and pushing and couch surfing. Grown man crashing at your boy house. And his wife was looking at him side-eye, talking about, ain't this cat grown? He got kids, like, right? He got kids that's going to college. And he looking to sleep on our couch. I can't, we can't have that, babe. Our kids are here. And now you don't pit your man against his wife and his family. Gotta do better.
Oh,
Gotta,
Melvin. Oh, Melvin.
yeah, gotta do better. So this just doesn't fall on, like I said earlier, I don't want people to think we picking on single mothers because this just doesn't fall at the feet of single mothers. It falls at the feet of these men who are out here running around creating these kinds of homes or creating these kinds of kids. At least if you're a solvent man and your child falls in some hard times and they come to you or she come to you and say, hey, look, dad, I just got a job and I'm making this, and this. She said, good, congratulations. How your grades? My grades are okay. Okay. You said, no, your grades got to be good if you're going to work. Work is a privilege when you're in high school. You work because your grades are good. Part of working is keeping them grades up. You say, well, the problem is I get my paycheck and mom want to take half. Half of what? I send her child support. She said, yeah, but that's not enough. He said, all right, I'll tell you what. There's an extra room here. You get your stuff. You come over here. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to have a talk with your mother, and we're going to hash this out. But you can't do that if you're not a solvent man. And this is where I'm going to get on the brothers at. Get your shit right. Go get your job on the books. Start setting your kids up for financial success. And what I mean by that is this. If you know you got a kid on the way, I don't care what your walk of life is, go open up a 529 savings plan for that kid. I think it was a 529, either 529 or 539. I always get it wrong. And start putting money in there, contributing. I don't care if it's little. By the time that child gets to high school and on into college, and you donate, even if you donating $1,000 over a year, and $1,000 a year is really not a lot of money when you break it down by week. I think that's like maybe $300. I think or something like that. Less than that. You got to do right by your child. Like David said, children don't ask to come into this world. We create them as adults. So you got to do right by your child. Like I said, I don't care if you go pick up bottles and cans and put that money into an account. And when that child graduates, you hand that child a check and say, hey, look, this is yours. Nobody can tell you what to do with it. If you want to go get a car, you go to get a car. If you want to use this money to further your education, you do that. But make sure you're smart with it. Because a lot of parents, they can't teach their children uh financial sense. They can't teach their children how to be fiduciary responsible for money because they've never had it. This is why you tend to see abuse like this in impoverished families and situations. And for them, it's par for the course. Well, what do I care if if he can't eat or he can always stay here? Well, he don't want to be 22 in his mother's apartment. He can't bring over no shorty. At least when he got a roommate, him and his roommate had an understanding. We gonna bring the peace through from time to time. We know what it is. Just like when you come back to your dorm room, you see a sock on the door. Hey, you got to go get lost for a little bit. You know what's going on in here. You trying to move some finicky. You trying to play some Marvin Gaye. But it's age appropriate. And none of us are running from that. But you got to get there.
Yeah. All valuable information. And when you think about it, to go back. And we know, again, like Herb said, we're not trying to pick on single mothers and all that stuff. Sometimes, as a man, they may have better, not in all cases, but if it's a particular case that a man has the financial tools or resources that the kid can come stay with them, sometimes you got to release that kid. You got to let it go. But I know a lot of times when you're like, oh, you got your mother in your ear, you got your sister, you got family members. You can't let, well, you're gonna let her go stay with him. Um, Whatever, how's that gonna look? But deep down inside, you know it's the best thing. And he tells you, you ain't gotta pay me shit.
Right.
Just call her. And when she wants to come see you, I'll send there to come see you and spend time, whatever. I
Uh-huh.
don't want nothing from you. Nothing. You ain't even gotta contact me like that. But people won't do it because control their finances. I rather struggle and take his money than to give her a better life and a better situation. Especially, say if he moved on and he got a solid woman. Now you're thinking like, because you got other people in your ear, so you about to let another woman raise your daughter or whatever the case is. She gonna, you don't know how she going to because it ain't hers. It, see, and that's what I'm saying. It'd be too much talking. It'd be too much talking instead of sitting back and saying, wait a minute, who the fuck just gave me this advice? What have you done? What have you done that you're the advice giver? Sometimes at the end of the day, you got to say what's in the best interest of the child. And sometimes it may be with the father for a certain stint, and it might give you time to get yourself together. And you may say,
Yeah.
she was with me for a couple of years, but she went back with her moms and all that. She got a chance to go to school, get her stuff together, and all that. She didn't have to, you know, she didn't have to pay me for anything. She had time. I gave her that time. I just wanted our child to be correct. Nah, man, people ain't doing that because they trying to control finances and they rather have that money come in instead of looking at the best interest of the child. Sometimes that, whether you, well, yeah, believe it or not, it shapes and projects and perpetuates like the future for children because they think about stuff like that. It's on their mind, and even if they're with the mother or father, whatever, they look at situations like, man, we ain't have nothing going on in my dad's house. They had this, they had that.
Yeah.
We used to go do this, we used to go do that. We can never do that, or vice versa. So it piggies back. It could go either way. But sometimes you got to think, like, what's best? What's best for them? And now, don't get me wrong, it ain't always got to do with finances because it could be a father that making bank, but his ass abusive as hell, emotionally
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
abusive, and all this stuff. So that wouldn't be a good place. But if he on solid ground and he like, yo, I'm just here to support, make sure you get everything you need to be the best adult, young adult you could be, then you go for it. But if it's something his ass out in the streets and doing this and that and hustling and carrying on. You don't want your child in that situation because you don't know what type of crossfire they could get caught up in. But if he on solid grounds and you know he doing his thing and he working, sometimes you gotta take a step back to move forward, and that may require that other parent to oversee those parental obligations for that time. Because again,
Yeah.
kids, they'll speak on that. Maybe not during that time. When they get older, they'll start talking about it. We ain't had shit, whatever. We ain't go on vacation. We ain't do nothing. When I was with dad or when I was with mom, we went here, we went there. I was able to get this. I was able to because again, we always talk about this. I do realize with the social media thing and all that, kids want to be on point
Yeah.
because all the images they see, they want to be on point. They want to be able to. keep up with the Joneses. We always talk about the Joneses. Most of the Joneses are broke, but they still want to keep up with them.
Yeah, man, and
uh,
black imagery is everything. And they talk about this. They talk about how they advertise to black people and to poor people for that matter. Um, is it's the old adage that wealthy people talk about ideals, rich people talk about other people, and poor people talk about things. You go into a person's house who's well to do, generally you find books. Now, I'm not saying you go walk in there and find an oak room library that's 10 feet by 30 feet, lined up with all kinds of books and periodicals and leather bound editions of this and that. But that's what the consensus says. They read more, they invest more, they have more. So when you find kids, young adults, especially if you have by chance to work with them, and you see them disgruntled or they always come in and they're in a huff, they don't seem like they're happy, if you will, with this current situation. More than likely, it's something going on at home. It is some type of abuse, and if it's financial abuse, they're probably not going to talk to you about it. One, they don't feel you can do anything. Two, they may tell you, "Oh, no, it's none of your business." Well, meanwhile, they're screaming for help. Everything about them, about what they say, how they dress, it screams, "I need help." No, they don't know where to turn to. They don't know who to talk to because how do you start that conversation? How does that conversation materialize? You go to work one day, you working, you know, as much as you can. Like I said earlier, what the working papers allow, 15 hours. You do the math, 15 hours, 250. Okay, Vikings gonna get me for a little bit. They gonna get me for a little bit, but I should still be able to bring home about $200. That's $800 a month. I should be able to go out and buy my PlayStation. I should be able to go out and buy my games. I should be able to go and buy the sneakers I want. I should be able to go out and buy the jeans I want. I should be able to go out and dress like my peers who are living a little bit better than I am. I should be able to fit right in. I should be able to go to the dance if I want to. I got the money, but my parent here is taking 50%, like they're a loan shark. So all of a sudden now my $800 a month go down to 400. Man, I can't do nothing, man. I'm looking forward to getting dipped in my senior year. I'm looking to own a car. I should be able to do that with $800 a month. I'm gonna have a little bit of gear. I'm not gonna have everything, but I'm gonna be pushing this nice little whip. I'm gonna get me a few honeys. They gonna see me in the car. They gonna want to roll. I got enough money to get the gas, insurance. Even though the insurance is gonna take a bite, my pops is gonna let me get the insurance in his name. They coming through like a loan shark, taking 100 off the top just because you exist and just because you got a job. Like I said, how does that conversation start? Who do they talk to? Especially if they don't have another parent who understands the situation, who knows what the mother's about. They're in a no-win situation. They can't talk to nobody. High school guidance counselor is going to tell them, look, I don't know what to tell them. They can't go down to the Department of Social Services because they're going to say, she's got primary custody of you. We can't do anything. They're not committing the criminal act. It is tough out here for young adults who don't have anyone to advocate for them. We talked about this before we got on the broadcast. It's going to get to a point where the educational system that we grew up in is not going to exist in the way that it does now because of things like this, because of the need for wraparound services. So when these kids start to get into sixth, seventh grade, you're going to see a dynamic switch in what education is. So education is going to include hygiene classes. Don't be surprised if you see home ec come back to high school. Don't be surprised if you see um, mental health counselors walking around the halls, sitting in classrooms, checking in on kids. Don't be surprised with others. Don't be surprised if you go into a high school and you see um, a dental office in there. We just talked about that because some of these kids, they may not get to see a dentist their entire time in high school. And where do you think cavities develop? An untreated cavity leads to a toothache. A toothache untreated days, it means that kid's missing school. No, you go get that cavity filled. You get an extraction, and more than likely, they're gonna recommend you get a cavity filled because you're too young to get a tooth pulled. But who's paying for it? I
It
mean,
reminds me when we had the dentist on the show. And
yeah,
we was talking about what stood out to me about the bleeding gums and stuff like that. He was saying that those infections and it goes to the brain and all of that stuff. Stuff be serious. Stuff be serious. Because we already talk about, like hands and mouth, like one of the filthiest
uh-huh.
parts, whatever, of the body, and like all of this stuff is connected. And most people probably wouldn't understand, like, how do you connect all this stuff, but it's connected and it's important. Like Herb said, like if that was the wraparound services and you had some dental or assistant dental up in the school, and you had to come in with appointments, just like how they have vision. They have people come in like, okay, this kid need eye on, he needs glasses or stuff like that. Sooner or later, it'll be someone that creates that type of situation where uh, all of these needs will be met because, to be honest, if we keep doing things like how we going now, it's we're in a sinking ship.
Yeah.
We already know it. I know it. I know it. And I've been an educator for 32 years. Uh, and if it keeps going like this, with all the needs that need to be met, the only way you got to have a one-stop shop. You have all that. You got to have all that shit in one place. And if you don't, then you're gonna continue having the same struggles that we had.
Oh,
But oftentimes I sit around in these meetings and I kind of like, because when you know you don't really have no control, so you sometimes you just sit back and you just listen. But you kind of tuned out what they're saying because you know, like, it's bigger than this. Shit y'all talking about is bigger than this. When y'all talk about these kids, these community issues, whatever, I'm one of those kids that grew up in those type of issues, but it was back in the days. So I understand, like, the stuff y'all talking ain't working,
yeah.
ain't gonna work unless you do something different. Yeah, I keep talking about what's the definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing. But shit, we keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. Shit. What we pretty much saying is we live in a crazy ass society. Like crazy. And then that's when you tie in mental health. Like
Hmm.
mental health this, mental health that, because we in a crazy ass society. Uh, who was it? BGS? Them already said we pretty much not. He didn't use these words, but we fucked.
Yeah.
We screwed.
And a lot of the thing about that is this: a lot of people, when we talk about these kinds of things, the first thing they say is, "Who's going to pay for it?" Newsflash, people, it's already being paid for. You pay for it in your taxes. Why do you think they do the census every 10 years? Because that dictates where federal dollars go. So when you see new buildings spring up out of seemingly nowhere, and you ask them where the money's coming from. That's where the money's coming from. It reminds me back when I was a kid. We used to have a handful of fire stations. Then all of a sudden, you see one go up on the corner of Ontario, and then you see one go up on Royal Avenue, and you say, "Where the hell is all this money coming from?" That's where. That's back when Niagara Falls was 80, 90,000 people strong. That money was coming in, and all these buildings were being built. Now, I ride down the street, I see perfectly good buildings being torn down, and I'm asking myself, why are they tearing these buildings down? And the person I was riding with was saying, well, maybe they're filled with asbestos. I said, no, there's a protocol for when a building is torn down and it has potentially asbestos. They got to water that building down. They got to cordon that off because the dust will blow around and anything in the surrounding area is potentially at risk of being contaminated. This was a perfectly good building, a brick structure on Buffalo Avenue, easily accessible by bus. So when I talk about wraparound services, and I talk about a place that can house families, that can house at-risk adults, that is set up, physically set up to house all these things that we talk about, that's a building like that. Now that building's gone. Excuse me. So now you don't have a structure, which is number one, always number one. We're always looking for a place, or people are not-for-profit programs are always looking for a place to do that programming because grant writers will get you the money. You go find people in the humanities who are either looking to start a program, looking to join in with somebody who has a program, because that's what my job, the second job I have, is in the humanities. People are always looking to help. I don't know how many people we have that are retired former people in education. They will donate their time. Most of them are looking to get out of the house anyway. If you asking, geez, let's take the city of Niagara Falls, small city. I know we have to have close to 200 or 300 retired educational people. If you ask each one of those people to donate 2 hours a week, just a week, and whatever their discipline is, you're talking 600 hours. Unpaid, top of the line education. People who say, well, what makes you think they're top of the line? You don't teach for that long and don't have some type of understanding of what's going on. No, they may need to be brought up on certain things, but this is how you get to the bottom of a young adult being financially abused, because they can sit in there with this child and say, hey, look, or this young adult just say, hey, look, do you have any concerns at home? I see you working. What are you doing with your money? That's how that conversation starts. You buying your clothes, you buying what you want. And then I was, you know, I get some of what I get. Well, what you do with your money? You got any receipts? And that's how that conversation starts. You send them over to somebody who's a financial strategist, and they'll break down what they do with their money. And it comes out, you know what? Their mother or father's taking half of what they earn. You say, okay, we need to get you out. That's a hostile situation. Because if that was a married wife coming home and the husband was taking half, there'd be people screaming for her to get a divorce. Oh no, he's financially abusing you, babe. You got to get out of there. You need to divorce him. But we don't tell kids the same thing. We tell kids you got to sit there and take it because that's your parent. They provided for you. Well, hell, what does the husband do unless he's just not that good and he ain't working? He's sitting up in his underwear playing PlayStation, eating Twinkies, Doritos, tipping his tooth on chicken. At the sipping table, getting heavy as hell. Yeah, but we tell adults things that we wouldn't dare tell a kid, and the kid is coming up through the same lens that the adult is. So what do you think that kid is? What do you think that child is being set up for? That young adult is being set up for when they get into adulthood. That it's okay to be financially abused. It's okay to go work and give half your paycheck to somebody who hasn't earned it. That you can't do what you want to with your own money. We would
So
never tell an adult that. But here we are expecting this young adult that that's okay. That's what. So when I talk about the wraparound services, when we talk about the wraparound services and the need is great. But in order for us as adults to understand why the need is great, we got to get to the root cause of what drives the issue. And when we get to the root cause of what drives the issue, then we're in a better situation to speak about it. Most of us can't speak about it because we've never seen it. Most of us have never been financially abused. Most of us, if we wanted the opportunity to go to college, it was there. But we're talking about the people that fall through the cracks because the people who fall through the cracks eventually they become problematic. So they're the ones who are out here causing mischief and chaos, not necessarily being destructive, but they're the malcontents. So they come into work, they make it hard for everybody else because they're not happy. They're miserable. Nobody wants to work with anybody that's miserable. I know I don't. I'm fortunate that, everybody I've ever worked with, at least that I can recall, we've been reasonably happy people. We've been content. Now, some people have had their own issues at home that are caused by certain things, untimely pregnancy or some financial hardship. That happens. That's part of being an adult. We call it life. But somebody abusing you and there's no escape and nothing can be done. Nah, I'm sorry. I'm like Hall and Oates. I can't go for that. You got to give me something different. There's got to be a way. Now, I'm not saying I have all the answers. I do believe that the answers are out there. I do believe that we can work toward the answers as a community, but we got to be willing to do that. We have to be willing to call out certain things where they lay. And the sooner we start doing that, the better off we are. Because if we put everybody on the equal footing, then the basement starts to rise. So no longer do we worry about people consistently living in poverty because that level of poverty now it starts to raise up. So when you go to a city like Niagara Falls, you don't expect to see people walking around necessarily talking to themselves. Matter of fact, I was where was I at? I was I was walking up Ninth Street. Now I don't know what the couple had going on. All I could hear was saying, I don't like that mother F and F. I just gave you a list of this to do that. And I was like, yo, they out here full throated. It was about 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the afternoon because I just finished doing yard work, took a shower, was going to the bank. And I said, yo, they wilding out. And then there's another brother just around the corner walking down Main Street talking about he'll smack any motherfucker in Niagara Falls. People don't know who he is. I'll turn around. There ain't a soul within 100 feet of this dude. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's real. It's real out here. It is real out here, man. It is real. Then I bumped into I'm not gonna say her name because I was shooting my shot. You know me. I was in my CAM mode today, and uh, cashier, and I peeped. I'm like, damn, shorty, you carrying a blade? She's like, yeah, I got to. I said, damn. I'm thinking, is it that tough? She said, well, no, I grew up in Philly. I said, Hispanic shorty. I said, that tough? She said, yeah. I said, I understand. You got to do for you. But this is the type of stuff I'm talking about. No woman should have to walk around with a knife at the ready to defend herself. The same way that no child, no young adult should have to walk around or hide their money at home under the mattress or in an old shoebox or in an old video game cover to keep your parent from raiding it. We wouldn't hear tell of that. But here we are. Parents are taking from the kids like it's okay. Nobody says anything, and that child is miserable because they don't get to do what they want to with their money, and that's shameful.
One of the things I want to go back, and you have mentioned about the hygiene issue, and you were talking about them wraparound service. Well, that happens a lot at the middle school level, and maybe even before that. And one of the things is that you had children that see a lot of times what happens in the family dynamics. You put trust in your kids that they're going to do this or do that, whether you work in one or two jobs, and you think they're getting older, that they're going to do the right thing. You still have kids, what we used to call them little P-rats. Little, pee in the bed and whatever at a certain age. And some kids come to school, and if they have that issue, they may face with teachers, other students saying, they stink, they, they musty, they're whatever the case is. Yeah, I do realize that, especially amongst boys, whatever. For boys, they can be uh, they can be a handful of not as far as with their hygiene. You may think they're washing up, taking a shower. They ain't did shit. Especially in this day and age where if it's taken away from their video game time and all that stuff, but then the stuff filters into other areas. Like I said, it comes to the school, and you have kids that they may be bedwetters or whatever the case is. Some of that stuff stems from parents. Maybe again, they're not adults; they're kids. So if you don't follow up with them, shit, if you're a bedwetter and shit, you can, especially if you're a parent that's working and you're living in the complex and you don't be able to watch at your own will or leisure, and you give a kid responsibility. Oh, your day to watch is Tuesday. Say if they miss that day. Say if they miss it because they didn't do what they were supposed to do, and you ain't monitor it. Then that means those clothes, those items go unwashed or whatever. And if you have someone that their hygiene is not up to par, guess what they're gonna wear? If they soil their underwear, they're gonna get a take off that pair, put another soiled from a couple of days ago, put them on, go to school.
Yeah.
Now they smell like piss, straight piss. Teachers complaining, kids complaining. He stank. He smell like pee. And the teacher's like, "Oh my God, it's unbearable." Who fault is it? Is it the kid or is it the parent? Uh, and granted, not everybody has 30 a month, 2 months of underwear to to recycle. Some people dealing with 7, 8, 9, 10 pair, and this this stuff is real. How I know it's real because I've been in this shit for 30 some years. So these situations come to me where you have to have conversations with kids, and then it reminded me what Herb said. You have to have these conversations. Like, tell me about your routine. When do you take a shower? I had these conversations like in the and as a presentation, and like, what's your routine? When you try to talk to them about routine, but then sometimes you want to find out other things. You want to find out if kids eating, they had dinner, or whatever the case is. Tell me about your routine after school. Then you have kids, and so when did you eat? Oh, then that's when you get the missing pieces, whatever. So you may have some kids, and you start talking about it. When do you take a shower? Well, I don't take a shower. I just get up, and usually I rush, and then I come to school. Um, and then you find out, okay, now I got to dig a little deeper.
Mhm.
The reason I'm talking about this is because it's not always about the financial neglect. It's also the emotional and the physical neglect is connected, because if that kid goes through his younger adulthood with this struggle and no one corrects it,
Yeah.
what's going to happen when he's an adult? You think he's going to be the most confident person? Uh, what do you think? What do you think? Somebody's going to wave a magic wand and he's going to be that adult with the highest level of esteem? No, he's probably been put down for years. Years. He stank. She stank. He musty. Such and such. And that travels with you at a young age throughout. Sometimes kids, they don't let shit go.
Yeah.
So now you go through all your years of elementary, middle, high school without given a chance, and you like a misfit, and then you step into the adult world. What can we do? What we can do? And I know sometimes it got to fall on the kids. They got to help you out. Parents, they have to help you out. But at a certain thing, as a parent, you have to set the table too. You got to put out examples. You got to put out stories. Life is about storytelling, whether y'all know it or not. And the people that receive stories probably are the ones that adapt. And this is the type of stuff that we deal with on a regular basis, whatever. And it's hard out here. It's hard. So neglect is prevalent. Again, physical, emotional, and financial. And then some of it is connected because, again, if you're that kid that can't wash, you only get a certain opportunity to wash your clothes, and you miss that date because the parent is like, yo, this is it. This is your day. And you miss it. What were they going to do? All their underclothes is soiled. They didn't get a chance to wash. And it's just a boy and a girl. It's not like you can borrow his brother underwear who washed. You got a sister. So now you got to make a conscious decision. Well, these ones that was 3 or 4 days ago, I'm just gonna put this on. The smell won't go away. So in the classroom, and the teacher like, oh, it's so unbearable because many of them don't know the plight. They don't understand. They coming from a different circumstance, and then the kids clowning. They got a destroyed kid throughout. Yeah, I ain't ready for these conversations. Yeah, I think I'm making
Yeah.
this shit up. Yeah, I think I'm making this up.
It's I'm going to tell you, kid, people, it's real in the
Mm,
field. It is real. And to follow up what David is saying, it's even rougher for young girls. Why? Because what happens once they start menstruating and they don't understand proper hygiene and care of their anatomy?
mm,
Infections. I'm for those of you who are a little sensitive, you may want to take a step away because I'm kind of going to get graphic here. Women talk about yeast infections. No, I can't never speak to having one. So I can only imagine what fun, if you will, it is to have one. Urinary tract infections. Young girls aren't taught the value of bathing versus showering, why one is more effective than the other, why one should be done as opposed to the other, and the limits that both have. Now, people are saying, well, what the hell does that have to do with anything? Well, let's look at it. If you have a female, young female, 11, 12, 13, 14, and she starts menstruating, and she doesn't understand the need to actually take care or additional care when she's doing that, whatever method she chooses to use, whether it's uh, tampons or pads, that she needs to actually be clean in that particular area because all of that blood and all of that flow leaves a breakdown, a biological breakdown. And we all know that bacteria, once it breaks down, like David said, it smells. She's going to the gym and she's doing things and she's sweating and she ain't showering afterwards, and she puts on the same clothes, guess what you're going to get? You will get some halitosis. We ain't talking about halitosis of the mouth. Now, when she starts to carry that kind of behavior into high school with her, and she starts to have sex, guess what happens? Yeah, you want to be around that mess. And when she starts to get a name and a reputation, you really don't want to be around that mess. So when boys start to talk bad about her, and then the girls get wind, what do you think's going to happen to that young girl's um, reputation, her her um her sense of well being and all of that, her 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 I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of a specific term, her confidence. Shot to hell. Never mind if she gets pregnant. If she gets pregnant, oh hell, you got the whirlwind that gets because now she's bringing in another life, and she don't know anything about life. Never mind fiduciary life. Hell, she don't even know how to keep herself clean. What makes you think she's going to be able to keep a little human clean? What makes you think she's going to be able to clean a house, keep an apartment clean? See, these are all the things that nobody ever talks about. These are all the things that everybody thinks that you're born knowing. So when you come up and you don't know, you live in a house that doesn't teach this kind of stuff. And people say, well, this is common sense. No, no, boo boo. It is not common sense. This stuff is taught. We were taught how to wash our eyes. You do this, you do this, you do that. Make sure you get in your ass cracked because mom don't want to be cleaning skin marks out your goddamn pants. We were told that. Wipe your ass properly. You wipe your ass like this. Young girls aren't taught how to wipe properly. Some people say, well, why does that matter? Well, this is how you end up with vaginal issues. As a young girl, people think they're being molested. No, they don't know how to wipe properly. And now that, like I said, they start menstruating and they don't have any clean undergarments to wear, infections run them up. So now you got a girl that's 14 with a urinary tract infection. Take her to the doctor, and the doctor asks if she's sexually active, and she says no. Damn. And this goes back to what David said. Well, what is your routine? What do you do in the morning? Well, I do this, I do this, I get up and I do this and I do that. No shower? How many pair of underwear do you have? I only got 6. How often do you do laundry? About once every 3 weeks. You start doing the math, you say, hey, look, the math ain't mathing. The math ain't mathing. Now, you might be able to get away with that if you're a boy because hey, I'm going to go free ball. I'm not going to wear any underwear. I'm going to make sure I wash my ass every day. I'm changing my pants. I'm doing my laundry. You might be able to get away with that as a boy, but as a young girl, you can't get away with that because of the fact that she's menstruating. Hey, yo, Big Frank, yo, Big Shank, man, I'm just being honest, man. I'm talking about the stuff that people just gloss over, man. And then they wonder why, when this girl get to be 1920. She stepped on the college campus. You walk into a dorm room and it's like, yo, what the fuck died in this motherfucker? That's why, people. That's why. Hygiene is crucial. And I'm going open the bag a little bit, let the cat head out, no pun intended. I've come across some female who've had that issue. I'm gonna leave it at that.
See,
It's me.
when you come in the counselor's corner, we're giving you all avenues. See, we're not talking about shit that's popular or trending things. This is real life conversations that happen that people don't think about. You just bypass it because you just live your life and you know, adults with children, you just say, "Oh, get up, go wash up, take a shower," and you just take for granted that they're doing that
Mhm.
till you get that phone call from a counselor or a nurse. Then you get offended. Like, what do you mean? Getting a lot of complaints. Getting a lot of complaints. Oh, you don't tell me I do this, I do that. I work for such and such. My daughter, well, have you really sat down and monitored the situation to know, like, okay, they're on point, they're doing this, or you tell them, oh, wash your clothes, put your stuff in there. You don't know what they're doing. We often ask the mystery question is when you had teenagers, where do your silverware go when they supposed to wash dishes or put it in the dishwasher? Nowhere. They throw that shit out. So you end up with two or three forks and two spoons, and you know you got a whole thing because you trust that they're gonna do what they gotta do. I'm about to put this shit out with the garbage. I ain't gonna wash that shit. And I forgot what I was watching. I don't know something the other day, and it was like saying something like with teenagers. There's like, what the hell was I watching? I don't know. I don't even know if it was like a NFL, NBA player or something. But they were saying you'll be surprised what you could find in your teenage room. Boxes of pizza underneath the bed, silverware, dishes, bowls, all types of stuff.
Yeah.
You don't follow up with that. So imagine as far as the hygiene, and again, we talked about finances and all that stuff. You have to have somebody, you got to supersede, you got to overlook that type of stuff. But at the same sense, how we started off the subject matter, we got to empower them. If a kid feels empowered and they're confident, they're going to take care of all those areas. They're
Yeah.
going to want to smell good. They're going to want to look good. They're going to make sure their drip is correct. They're going to be on point. They're going to be a solid individual. If something's lacking, one thing is lacking and it's lingering, this shit can bring down everything. Everything. That's why it's important to boys to be well groomed, girls
Hmm.
to get, able to get their hair done and all that stuff. And we had shows about this back in the days, how others used to make sure that their kid hair was done and all that stuff. We talk about everything on here. And it's important. All that stuff is important to make a person whole. But again, many people are in their own world because as adults, a lot of us is caught up too
Yeah.
in the
Oh yeah.
phone, social media, and not paying attention, trying to see what's going on. But then you got kids that's being financially neglected. Emotionally neglect, physically neglect. Got to stay on point. What you say could kill your whole day. Yeah, fam, it's wild out here, so it's important to pay attention to see what's going on. Again, like I said, children that's well rounded. Once they once they get that level of confidence, they're gonna be on point with
Yeah,
everything. Shit, they probably gonna school you on shit like, yo, I got to do this, I got to do that, because their confidence level is going to be at. They're going to feel empowered, so they're going to be at a different level. But if there's something lacking, it's imbalance as well. Let's talk about balance. Got to be balanced. If something is imbalanced and is dragging them down, that shit can teeter totter and fuck up everything. But I don't know. I just be talking. I be JBT.
man. And I like I said, man. If people knew half the stuff that they thought they knew, they would they would change a lot of what they do. And you know, it's unfortunate for a lot of a lot of younger kids that they have parents who they for lack of a better term, they are clueless. And if you want to know, insiders know. If you want to know when a young adult, 14, 15, 16, 17, they're getting into high school. If you want to know if a young male is struggling, comparatively speaking to his peers, two things you probably should always want to keep an eye on. One, definitely grooming, but more specifically, how does his hair look from week to week, month to month? Does it look clean? Does it look kept? Or does it just look like that individual gets up, gets dressed, and just comes to school? Number two, their footwear. Now, I know how that sounds. Nobody pays attention to what nobody wears on their feet. Wrong. Women do, particularly as they get older. And you ask most women, the first thing they notice about a man, what he has on his feet. Now, I'm in full disclosure mode today. When I went to the bank, I have a pair of old, beat up Under Armour sneakers, and I love them to death. Absolutely love them. They're so goddamn comfortable that I wear them goddamn things anywhere, doing damn near anything. I've worn these sneakers to the point. Full disclosure. Matter of fact, hold up.
They'll tell me about to pull out some with some holes in them joints. Herb always Herb, the big bad wolf gonna prove his point. Give y'all some receipts. So that's where we're at. Big Shank says sometimes their parents don't know about their body. Oh, parents know. Parents know. Trust and believe. They may ignore it. They know when shit ain't right. They get full exposure because the body it ain't on the body odor. It happens in the room.
As you can see, that is tape. Like I said, I love these shoes to death. I don't warm to the point where the soul is detached from the seeker itself. And I've got these bad boys taped, and I walk around with these motherfuckers looking just like this because I'm comfortable with them.
You got them taped up.
Full disclosure, man. Listen, David, I swear to God, man, these things are so goddamn comfortable.
So why not just run it back and get another pair?
because they don't sell this particular brand anymore or this particular
Uh,
type. Matter of fact, I bought these uh probably about 13, maybe 14 years ago. The first time I wore them was in the corporate challenge. For those of you who are aware of the
or the
JP
Buffalo.
Morgan Chase
Well,
corporate challenge,
yeah.
I, I I ran in these, and I remember that day, man. It was raining, it was muddy. I was mad as hell because they got dirty as hell. But these motherfuckers, boy, they you know what they remind me of? They remind me of the Gary Payton Sons of Glove. Best
Mhm.
basketball sneaker I ever put on my foot, man. Them joints had a sock in there, hold my foot like a mitten. I never put on a better basketball sneaker ever in my life, man. And these suckers right here. So if you see me walking around them, yes, I'm channeling my inner Mr. T, but don't be fooled. I got footwear, and I got footwear galore. I just choose to wear these joints when I'm walking around taking care of business. So if you see me wearing these, I'm taking care of business. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me what I'm doing. Just sit back and observe, make moves like I do.
Mm.
But hey, footwear is everything. And I'm a comfortable fashion man. So when I put them suckers on, I'm walking them clouds. I ain't got a worry in the world. It's like the Blackbird song, walk in the rhythm, moving in style. Think about my baby, try to get home. That's just how I'm rolling. So
AI go clip that part, whatever. With AI go catch on to that. It's gonna
I'm
be
serious
funny
though,
how they
man.
label it.
But I'm aware. I'm aware. So I tell people as a 53-year-old man, if I want to put on some clothes and step out with the finest footwear, I can do that. I got shoes that are hundred some odd dollars. I just don't feel a need to walk around going to the bank and running errands doing that. I don't need to dress like that. Why make myself a target? That's what a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand, when you live in certain communities and in certain places, you don't make yourself a target. You don't advertise you got money. For who? For what? So people can start targeting me and then come around and say, oh, look, oh, he got this. Oh, he got that. That's why I talked about the young lady with the blade today. I don't walk around like that. Granted, I plan on getting my pistol permit, but still, I'm making myself a target. For who? For what? For some cats that don't have less, that don't care? Ah, man, you got to be smarter than that. And that's one of the things, when we talk about finances, these young kids don't learn. They start getting all this additional stuff, walk around with the latest iPhone, people start eyeing you up. You got the bully hold up on the corner. You got him with his friends. They say, hey, look, we see you got a little bit of dough. What you give me and a homie for lunch? Man, I ain't got no money like that. You got the latest iPhone. That costs about 12 Hondo. You got some money. You holding out on us. And next thing you know, your child getting bullied. 13, 14, 15 years old. And then they might be living with their dad who sets them up. Make sure they got a job, make sure they taken care of. They ain't got no one to worry about. All of a sudden now they get picked on, they get cornered.
And
What are they
sometimes
do?
I look at this stuff, time and situation. It's a place, time and place for everything. And I think kids look at this stuff. They like boys and all that stuff. A lot of these boys, they in the watches. They see what watch you got on, and they looking at that, and you could be a target. Like
Yeah.
what I'm saying, some things ain't meant for everything. As far as like in the school setting, you may have a nice watch, but that may be something. Okay, on the weekends you're wearing it here and there. It's not for school because shit, if you get undressed for gym, you take it off. Somebody's going, or you're a walker and you walk from school. you may be targeted. Um, Girls, purses and stuff like that. They're you're a target. So sometimes parents got to identify that. But then again, as parents, we don't always know. You don't always know. A kid may go to school with one thing on and may change. Oh, I got to put on this watch once I get into school, or I got to pull out this bag, even though my mother said, don't take that to school or whatever, because you want to floss.
Yep.
You want to, but it's sometimes it's repercussions to all of that. And sometimes all of this stuff is hard to monitor, especially if you're a parent and you leave before you get up and making your money and you leave before your kid goes to school. So it's hard. We can't blame you. Can't blame you for that. The only thing you can do is kind of drill in the message, and hopefully
Mhm.
they'll get it. But 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 in some cases, some of the stuff end up, you end up on the other side. That ended up being a bad predicament. So again, like Herb said, it's hard out here. It's hard out here for so many different reasons that we have to pay attention to. No one's talking like experts and all this stuff. This is more for general conversation. Like real, and I know people struggle with this stuff, but again, they don't decide to jump on. To me, it should be more people in the chat. It should be more people like, yo, I want to join the panel and all that. When we had our heydays of people on the panel,
Yeah.
but when now we on a little downtime, I'm okay with that too, whatever, because consistency breaks down resistance. So when y'all thought we was going for 4 or 5 weeks, that it was done, it wasn't done. Just coming back, some more shit for y'all asses. That's what it was, with a little cosmetic details in between. But all this stuff is so real. And the one thing is just plant. We plant. We're farmers. We like to plant seeds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plant seeds in your head. Like shit, I never thought about it like that. Like I didn't even understand because, like I said, being in the schools and being educated for 31, 32 years, so I've seen a lot. So I know the shit that goes on and all that stuff. So when I try to tell people what happens, and then they try to say, "Oh no, it's not like that." That's just in Baltimore. You out your rabbit ass mind if you think this is just a Baltimore issue.
Yeah.
This shit is all over. Long as you got social media and all this stuff, it travels and it picks up in every place. But you believe what you want to believe.
Yeah.
Then you'll come back and say, "You know what? You were right. You were right. I should have listened." It's hard to challenge somebody who has experienced years in a certain field. You seem almost foolish to even question anything
Yeah.
that they say, and it's a different time now. If somebody told me and they've been in the field or something for that long, shit,
I
I'm
gotta
just gonna
listen.
listen. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna listen. I ain't got shit to say. But y'all know everything, because you know what? But y'all Googled something.
Yeah.
And that got you over so foolishly. We
Yeah.
got like 6 minutes left, whatever. We're gonna get ready to any closing comments, Herb, that you got to say, because this was very informative, a good conversation. I enjoyed it because shit is real.
Yeah, man. For better or worse, man, the young adults, the Gen Z adults, the millennials, they're the future. The question is, what kind of future do we want? Do we want a future where the adults are going to be solvent? They're going to be knowledgeable? They're going to be capable? Or do we not? And if we do want it, then hey, we need to take steps to ensure that they're capable. And that means, for me, David, everybody else who's potentially will listen to this who will have kids, who will have access to young kids, to young adults. Hey, teach them. Don't look down upon them as if they're incapable. Make sure they're capable. And if that means you got to teach them something twice, you got to stand over there until they master, do that. Somebody did it for you. Do it for somebody else. And as always, growth and understanding occurs in the gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
All right, so we close it out. It's been, hey, been a return. Anytime you take off and you feel like you're on vacation, you return. I feel like we missed the beat. Back at
Yeah.
it, getting a routine going, and about to close out the summer. But y'all know what's about to go down. Y'all know what's really gonna close out the summer, especially in Niagara Falls. Herb might not think about it, or whatever the case is. T Glove, my sister, end of
Yeah,
the year, end of the year
I,
is coming.
I'm, I'm trying to crash. I'm trying to crash. I really am. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do the whole weekend, but I'm seriously looking. I'm looking to come in there, kind of dip. Uh, that's still gonna require some more weight loss. I might have to get a pair of pants tailored. But yeah, I'm coming through. I'm coming through.
Friday,
Attitude too.
Friday, Saturday, Friday,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or is it just
Friday,
Friday, Saturday?
Friday. It's the lineup. Friday, party at Shorty's.
Yeah.
Saturday, brunch.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, that's what it was.
for the time, and then Saturday evening at her house, which is like a club. It turns into a club, whatever. Then Sunday is probably downtime for people that's hanging around, still want to eat, still want to have some cocktails, and
Yeah.
everybody work their way out, whatever. Close
And
out the summer party.
I just reloaded with matter of fact, you know what? This is funny. I went and snatched up another liter of Ciroc, pineapple Ciroc. Yeah. Just show it's kind of co-sponsored, don't officially buy it. I had some of my hot chocolate with it because I'm kind of getting congested. And then I'm kind of getting into this fruity stuff. So I picked up peach Ciroc. So I'll let y'all know how that tastes. Uh, I'm getting my plumbing done. So hopefully by the time the snow falls, I'll have that situated. So I'll have one major thing out of the way. Also, you heard it here first. Next year, the big bad wolf plan on getting him a motorcycle. Yeah, that's right.
No, no. We go down. You should have brought this shit. We got to talk about this. We got to talk about this, and that's probably gonna be next episode. We got to talk about this shit. We got to talk about. I don't know why you would pull this shit up with like 2 minutes left, but we got to talk about this shit. The wolf with a motorcycle. We got to go. Big Shank, you said it's going down. Yes, it is going down. The weekend of September 19th, whatever, T Glove, close out the summer, get ready for the fall affair. And you know how she do it. We gonna do it up, whatever. So get ready to be dormant, close out the summer, go into the fall where a lot of people keep to themselves. They
Yeah.
focus on stuff to try to come back. Some people, have the seasonal uh, affective disorder. This
Yeah. Yeah.
affective disorder. It's sad, but gonna close it out well, and do what we gotta do. Well, we ain't let this motorcycle. I'm gonna write that shit down. We get up. We gonna tee off on this shit. The big bad wolf want to get on a motorcycle at 53. Fuck out of Dodge with that one. All right. We out, good people. Appreciate you. We back. We back. And we'll see y'all next time. Peace and love.
Ah, yeah.
We
Take
out.
care.
All right.